welcome to the next session. We're really looking forward to this one. It's going to be really fun and informative and interactive. Welcome to the lovely Leo Platt from Leopold Marketing. He's talking about doorstep incentives. Over to you, Leo.
Thank you very much, Sarika, and yeah, good morning, everyone. It's absolutely lovely, lovely to see you all in this absolutely crazy time that we're in at the moment. I don't seem to have any slides coming up on my screen, so do we have any of the slides there? Because they're not showing on screen. Wonderful, that's great. Thank you very much. So as Sarika's mentioned, today I'm going to talk about doorstep incentives. We are in a world of continual change at the moment, so it's certainly keeping us all on our toes. So over the next sort of 25-30 minutes or so, I'm going to give you a few little ideas on what we can achieve in the now. But before we get going, as Sarika mentioned, my name is Leo Platt. I am the managing director of an agency called Leopold Marketing. We work with a lot of clients. We specialise in both supporting the supply and the buying side of the industry. So we work with venues, we work with destinations in helping them articulate their product, and we also help organisations plan events as well, predominantly in the incentive market. If any of you saw anything of the Incentive England campaign, which is one of the Discover England Fund projects operated by Visit England over the past few years, we ran the Incentive England programme. So once again, I said it's great to be here today. As we just said, we are in a very strange world at the moment. We're in a world which is just absolutely full of questions. None of us really know what's going on, do we, at the moment? We don't know whether we can organise events. Where are we going to be able to travel to? Will our event get cancelled? Will it be safe? We really do not know. And as Lou was saying earlier on, we need a crystal ball to work out what's going on at the moment, because we just simply can't organise anything. But I am always an eternal optimist, and at Leopold Marketing we always believe that the glass is always half full. And during this period, it's giving us that time to think about things a little bit differently and think really about where do we go from here? What can we do rather than what can't we do? But before we actually go into talking through what we can do, let's go right back to the very beginning. Let's go right back and have a look at why do we organise incentives in the first place. So I have my first poll question of the morning. We have 3 poll questions that we'd like to ask you today. And the first question is, why do we organise incentives? And indeed, what would incentivise you? So if you look on the screen, you can see I've asked you a question regarding an incentive. So what I'd like you to do is imagine that you have had, you've got a horrible boss who has just doubled your target. You're not getting any extra resource to actually achieve your target, but you've got to do double the output. But if you do that, you're going to be rewarded with one of 4 options, which you can see on the screen. So what I'd like you to do using the poll is just pick one of those options. If you were to have a reward, what would that reward be? So just have a minute or so, and please just pick your top answer as to what would reward you. I'm going to caveat the trip of a lifetime for you and a partner. That is going to happen when it can. It's certainly not going to be organised in the next few months, but that will take place when it is safe to do so. So if you'd like to answer those questions, please, and Sarika, if you could send over the answers, and we'll have a little look at what people are looking for. Well, there we go. It comes as no surprise that 76% of you have chosen a trip of a lifetime. And whenever we do this exercise, we've done this exercise for many years on picking trips of a lifetime. When we do this in a live environment, we normally have a lot more options, and we ask you to rank them in order of importance. But over the years that we have been doing this, trip of a lifetime always comes out on top. So the answers that we've had come through, 76% of you have said that a trip of a lifetime is your top answer. A promotion, 18%, 9% for extra holidays, and none of you have gone for a hamper. So there you go. So if any of that, put in the chat if you think that was a surprise, but that's fairly sort of typical answers coming out there. So why do we use travel as an incentive, and indeed why have over 3/4 of you picked travel? And it very much boils down to some very basic human instinct. Travel it's multi-sensory. It touches all of the senses. It creates bragging rights. It creates memories. So travel is one of those things that's made up of lots and lots of different experiences that build into this all encapsulating idea that will inspire and motivate you. What we find from incentive travel as well is not only does it reward and incentivize you, it also incentivizes your colleagues that didn't quite make it. So if a company repeats an incentive next year, you've heard from all of your colleagues that went on that incentive, you think, do you know what? I'm going to work really, really hard and try and get that. So that's very much why travel is used as an incentive. And all of the intel that we're looking at the moment from our industry partners and from our clients is that incentive travel is probably going to be one of the first things that comes back in terms of the live events space, because it is an incredibly powerful tool to both motivate and reward. So next question for you guys, what would you like to do on your incentive trip? So I want you to have a think about, you're going to have this wonderful, all expenses paid trip of a lifetime, you and a partner, and you're going to be there with some of your colleagues. So again, we have 4 options. Have a little look at what we've got on that list there. Is it that you want to go somewhere that you've never been to before? Do you want to do things that you've never done before? Do you want to do things that normally you wouldn't be able to afford? Or is it that you want to play safe and you want to do stuff that you always do when you go on holiday, like lie on a beach or just chill out by a pool? So again, have a minute and just if you'd like to do as we did with the first question, just pop down your top answer and we'll have a look and see what kind of things that you guys are going to be doing when you are on your wonderful trip. So Sarika, again, if you could let us know what's coming through, and we can have a little bit of a chat about those. Wow, that's a very, very top answer that's come through. 84% of you have said that you would like to do things that you'd never normally be able to afford to do. 12% of you said that you want to do stuff that you've never done before. So again, really clear to show that having a trip that is fully funded, going to enjoy some absolutely gorgeous experiences is your top reason. To go to places that you've never been to before, 14%. Did we have anyone say to do the things that you always do? No. So what we're seeing here is that by organising an incentive trip, it's all about new experiences and doing things that you wouldn't be able to afford or you've not done before. Okay. We have one last question for you today. So we're going to go on this amazing trip. We're going to go on this amazing trip. But obviously we're in a very uncertain world at the moment. So 4 things here that have popped up. So if you'd like to tell me which of these is your biggest reason for not doing an incentive trip. So is it the risk that you might catch COVID? Is it because it might get cancelled? Or indeed any of the other reasons that are on the screen? So again, last question of the morning. If you'd just like to spend a minute to answer those. And again, Sarika, when you're ready, if you would like to fire over the questions. So again, just a couple of seconds then, guys, if you could just answer those questions now. and we'll see what you think are your biggest barriers to going on an incentive trip. We're just having a couple more seconds for you to answer that, and then the questions will come through. There's so much going on at the moment that there could be all manner of reasons going on. I mean, for example, this presentation that I prepared for you this morning, it was written on Monday, and there's all sorts of things that have changed since Monday, but we are in that very uncertain environment whereby we just do not know what we are going to be able to do. But as we mentioned, we have this opportunity now to start looking at things differently and planning for different options. So the answers are just beginning to come through. The top result so far is getting stranded. Many of you are saying that you just don't want to go on an incentive trip because you just don't know whether you're going to be able to get home or not. Risk of cancellation, 24%. Risk of COVID, 18%. And the last one, do we have the last one, Sarika? Okay, being in quarantine. So really it's quite an interesting mix there, that we're seeing that the biggest fear factor at the moment is that you're not going to be able to get home. Okay, so what we need to sort of start thinking about then is think about what we can do rather than what we can't do, and start formulating plans that are going to mitigate some of those reasons. So getting stranded, as we can see, is the biggest reason that you've picked this morning, ladies and gentlemen, but that doesn't necessarily need to be a barrier when we can get going again. And this is really sort of the critical point of this morning's presentation is think about what we can do nearby. And now is an ideal time to start planning incentives whereby you and your delegates can discover what is on your doorstep. Now think about your local museum, your local art gallery that may be down the road from where you live. When did you last go there? I live in the middle of Birmingham, and I can safely say I haven't been into Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery in 4 or 5 years, and it's 5 minutes from where I live, but it's an absolutely amazing resource. So now is the time to start thinking about what is on your doorstep. So before I give you some top tips on how you can plan a doorstep incentive, I'm just going to whet your appetite with a very short video of what we have in terms of world-class incentive products in the United Kingdom.
This, in all of its rewarding glory, is England.
But if you're not able to hear the sound, what you can see here is a montage of some wonderful experiences that we have in. They can hear it. Wonderful. I can't hear it at my end, but you can hear it at your end, which is great.
Greatest experiences. And a history that's inspired the world. We have a taste for the finer things. A real sense of occasion. And our charm, our extravagance, and our secrets can be enjoyed by day or night. What greater incentive do you need?
Okay, so just a few little ideas for you there, ladies and gentlemen, that show you that world-class incentives are right here. They're right here on our doorstep in the United Kingdom. That video was shot last year, so as you can see from it, obviously there are in the presentation a few things that we will have to do a little bit differently at the moment, but the sentiment is that we have an amazing range of world-class experiences that we can enjoy. So how do we go about planning those incentives and ensuring we are delivering something that was a multi-sensory experience that everyone can enjoy right on our doorstep? So we have 5 top tips for you to consider when planning your UK-based incentives. The first one I'd like you to think about is hardwired hygiene. I don't know about you, but I'm getting absolutely sick of seeing signs everywhere saying that we've made COVID provisions, that we've got social distancing in place, and so on and so forth. And I think as time goes on, this is something that we will learn to live with, and everyone will expect it without necessarily having to have signage everywhere. And it's very easy to hardwire hygiene arrangements into an incentive trip. And there's some absolutely amazing examples of how this is being done. So here we can see a restaurant that are keeping people COVID secure by placing their dining experiences into greenhouses. So what should be a mitigation to ensure that we are safe actually becomes part of the experience. In terms of the actual planning of your event, I think when we sort of get to the or talking to organizer side of things, then from a venue perspective, ensuring that we have those risk assessments in place and that we have communicated that to reassure, but it doesn't necessarily have to be onerous. It could be something that is built in as part of the overarching experience. We quite often, when we start talking about organising incentives, work very much on the geography, the region that we're going to go to. We're going to go to the Caribbean, we're going to go to Australia. But what I'd like to ask you to consider is, rather than thinking about going somewhere that's geographic, think about how you can organise an incentive which is thematic. It might be something whereby your delegates have been stuck inside for many, many months at end. And so organising something whereby we take them to enjoy the great outdoors will really create that multi-sensory experience. Or it might be that we celebrate the best of what's on our doorstep. So for example, here we have a mini adventure which we organise through Hampshire. So again, we can do things in a slightly different way, but it is delivering an incredibly powerful experience. Our third tip is thinking about unlocking the extraordinary. We talked earlier on about being able to do things that you would never normally be able to afford to do. And 84% of you said that you would like to do that. And 12% of you said that you would like to do things that you have never done before. And by combining those two elements, we can put together an incentive that really does unlock the extraordinary. Going on a speedboat down the River Thames as an example. Or indeed enjoying a stately home in a private tour and having a curated view of some of the artifacts that may be in there. Now, that is something that is not normally open to the public. This venue here is a venue called Knowsley Estate in the northwest of England. And Knowsley are really upping their game and working on how they can do stuff which unlocks the extraordinary and is giving people that complete money can't buy experience. There's all sorts of different options that can be explored. Our penultimate tip is enliven the senses. I don't know about you, but I've been stuck at home working in my dining room for many, many months on end. I'm actually in the office today, and it's lovely to be here. But we've not been able to go out to see things, to taste things. So at the moment, being able to organise an incentive, or indeed start planning an incentive for the future which enlivens the senses, will really have resonance with many, many people. So something that might seem really simple, like going to a beautiful RHS garden, seeing some wonderful wildlife, seeing some great flowers, doing something which is going to touch all your senses, rather than something that is just very flat and very visual that we've been doing for months on end by setting in front of a screen, will really have resonance. Or it could be that enlivening the senses is giving your guests a wonderful experience where they can enjoy a world-class hotel and doing something which might seem as simple as having a beautiful fragrant bath with a bottle of champagne and some nice music and being able to take some time out. I was actually away the early part of this week. I was at Burr Island in Devon. It's the first time I've been in a hotel since January. And something that I would normally take for granted suddenly became this amazing experience because I've just not done it for so long. So I think what we can do in terms of enlivening the senses is really think about, we'd like to get back to normal and enjoy the things that we may have taken for granted before. And this is an ideal way in which to do that. The final tip is we all know that our budgets are going to be very tight. The whole economics of the events industry and indeed the wider economy are completely upside down at the moment, and we do not necessarily know how this is going to play out. But for us, what this has taught us is that we don't have to necessarily do things which cost a fortune. Doing something which is really giving you a great experience will really have resonance with your audience. The image that you can see here, again, this is the Knowsley Estate in the northwest of England, and it operates exclusively. And doing something such as being able to go on a walk or indeed a run around a private estate with nobody there, it's an absolutely amazing experience, which you would never be able to afford to do by yourself. And then finally, looking at catering when we can all get together again, and how can we deliver something which is a wonderful experience but not necessarily expensive. So again, this is something that we organised last year. This is organising an afternoon tea in a folly which never gets used. And again, it's somewhere that's normally locked, people don't go into, but it provides that wonderful experience that you will remember forever. So hopefully those tips have given you some food for thought. I'd just like to sort of end by just sort of showing to you that we are an incredibly strong industry. And what I've seen over the past few months is how great we are when we work together. At the moment, things might not be clear, but by working together as a supply chain and buyers, we can achieve the extraordinary. When we work together, the events industry makes things happen. So I hope that's given you a few hints and tips. Hang on in there, guys. We are going to get through this. We're going to get through it together. It's been an absolute delight to talk to you this morning. If anyone has any questions, please do feed them through, and I will do my very best to answer them. I've popped my contact details up on the screen for you, ladies and gentlemen. If you do need any help or support at all, or even just need to bend somebody's ear, please do drop me an email. Please do give me a call for a chat, because we'd be delighted. We'd be delighted to help you out. So thank you once again. Any questions, please do feed them through.
Thank you, Leo. What a great session that was. Really important to obviously know that, you know, the incentives are right here on your doorstep as such, especially now more than ever. You touched on thematic and multi-sensory experience earlier in your presentation. That's something that's come up a lot over the last, day and a half. We're seeing the trend now more in venues than ever. People want that experience, that theme when they go out. Do you think that is now, more important than ever just because of the current situation we're in? Or do you just think it's just a trend that's, developed over the years and so forth?
I very much believe that is a trend which is becoming more and more important, and we can see that in all sorts of industry sectors, not just within the live event sector. So if we think of, if you go to a really good retail outlet these days, if you go to a store, it's very much about the experience. Long gone are the days where you just go into a department store just to buy something. The brand and the brand experience is really important. Great example is somewhere like Hollister or Abercrombie and Fitch, where if you take the Abercrombie and Fitch in London, you can smell it for miles before you even get there, because pump scent out into the atmosphere. And that is very much a trend that I think we've been seeing. When we look at exhibition stands, and we're quite heavily involved in building exhibition stands, again, a lot of them now, they're not just a white box, they are very much part of an experience. So yes, it's very much a trend, but it's something that I think has been very much catalysed over the past few months, because we're crying out to have all sorts of different multi-sensory experiences.
Of course. Just going back to the couple of questions that have come in, do you think incentive travel is so key to our industry now because we have such long hours and, working in the events industry? Do you see it as a kind of reward for those long hours that we put in?
I definitely do see it as a reward, and I think at the moment we're working harder than ever because we're putting in contingency plans and trying to deliver activity. And then we're having to change that. So I think when we can, being able to reward people is going to be absolutely key.
We'll just take a pause there just because I think the stream's cut out. Toby, no one's seeing anything on the user side because I can see it right in front of me. Sorry, Leo.
That's all right.
They're all looking at me we're sitting in our boardroom. Sorry, guys, there for that short technical difficulty, and sorry to cut you off, Leo. If you just want to,
No
carry
problem.
on with why we work so many hours and the rewards that incentives provide. You would kindly.
I think they very much provide you with that opportunity to take time out, and I think it is now more than ever important to take that time out. And when we say take time out, that can be done in many different ways. It can be with your friends and family, or indeed just taking stock with peers. One of the beauties of an organised incentive trip where you're away with your peers is it's taking you out of that normal working environment, and it's giving you that chance to have some downtime with like-minded people. The way that the world is moving is that it's looking like we're not necessarily all going to be working in an office in that very traditional environment that we have done previously. There's lots of talk about people returning on a blended model whereby they're in the office for just a day a week, maybe a couple of days a week. So having that time with your team in a physical environment for cohesion is really important. So not only is it taking time out, it's actually adding a different dimension to your working pattern with your colleagues and your peers.
Of course, that leads me quite nicely onto another question that has been asked, and it said, do you think we will see more of an uptake of incentives than ever before? Because now everyone's, obviously coming back together after this time and everyone wants to be involved.
I definitely think from all of the intel that we've seen through our industry colleagues that we work with through the likes of MPI and Site, etc., all of the insights are pointing towards that we will see incentives come back. I definitely think the market is going to change and we're going to see elements of displacement. So it's looking, my sort of take on it is that the days of having the 2 weeks in Bali or going off into the outback in Australia, they may take a long time to come back, if indeed they come back at all. But doing incentives which are on our doorstep, which are more cost effective, that mitigate those risks that we might not be able to travel, it's looking very positive for those experiences and they will come back quick. I think in terms of COVID, we're probably going to be looking at smaller numbers, but we're also seeing that venues are willing to be much more flexible. So a venue that might historically have not offered exclusive use is now more likely to do that. Or it may be that their thresholds for exclusive use come down. So overall, it's going to add to the experience.
Definitely. Craig's just mentioned, obviously, incentives are huge right now, especially if we hit the wellness angle. What are your thoughts on that?
Definitely. The wellness angle is incredibly important, not necessarily just from a physical point of view, but from a mental point of view as well. People have very much been suffering from all manner of anxiety, depression, panic attacks, and so on and so forth. And I include myself in that. The industry has been turned upside down. It's been very difficult to know exactly where we're going. So having a wellness stream as part of an incentive program is going to be incredibly important. And venues that can do that, and indeed incentive programs that can encapsulate wellness, I think there's going to be a really, really positive uptake on that. Looking at things like doing incentives in more rural locations where you can actually get out in the countryside, enjoy some fresh air, and do those experiences that you've just not been able to do for ages. It's going to be essential as we move forward.
Definitely. Which also brings me on to another question. Do you think, clients nowadays are just booking local or will just book local just because they, have to wait now until they're able to travel further abroad? Typically we saw, international travel every couple of times a month, people were, traveling abroad. But
yeah.
What's your
I
thought?
think it depends. It depends on what we define as local, and every organisation is going to be different. I mentioned earlier on in my presentation, I've not been to my local museum and art gallery for years, but it's fantastic. So it could be that if you have a local team, that you do something incredibly local. It could be that an organisation defines local as they're a Scottish-based organisation, but they may choose to have an incentive in Wales or vice versa. So I definitely think there's going to be an uptake there. We've been working very closely with a lot of our venues that we support at the moment on how they actually articulate that, and they're excited about it. And that, you know, when they can get going, they really, really want to put forward these wonderful experiences that a domestic audience can enjoy.
Of course, and obviously we've seen, you know, campaigns in the past that encourage people to eat local. Do you think this is something the events industry needs to adopt with a campaign, or do you think we need to kind of raise some more awareness around that?
That's a really good one. Yes, I do think there is a need to undertake local activity. Where things are quite an interesting way in which they could evolve is how incentives are delivered for an international organisation. Many incentive programs, as we all know, they will bring together a global team in one particular location. Some of the ideas we've been exploring with some of our clients is effectively a hybrid incentive, whereby you have your North American team enjoy an incentive in North America, you have your UK team enjoy an incentive in the UK, and they have ways in which they connect during that incentive program. It could be that there's an element of live streaming. It could be that they have challenges set against one another. So yes, I think there's very much a place for keeping things local, but we need to keep our eye on the international market as well.
Definitely. Well, thank you, Leo. We've had, you know, lots of great questions there, and everyone said, you know, the presentation was really fantastic and so interesting, giving them lots of food for thought there. Do you just want to let them know how the viewers know how they can reach out to you and, you know, find out more about the incentives and that kind of side?
Yes, indeed. So my team are currently still on furlough, so there's only myself back in the office at the moment. The easiest way to get hold of me at the moment is either through social media or indeed by email, or indeed being very old school and picking up the phone. So however you'd like to get in touch with me, please feel free. My contact details are on the presentation. Can we put them in the chat and get them sent out to everyone afterwards?
Yeah, we'll do.
Just reach out to me. It may take a little while to reply at the moment. I said, as you can see in the office, there's only me here at the moment. Else is still on furlough, but they will indeed be coming back as soon as we can. But yeah, anything at all I can do to help anyone. As I said, even if it's you just want to pick brains or just need to have a chat, then I'm always here.
Definitely. Thank you, Leo. We'll post those details in the chat now, and thank you so much for your time. That was a really great session. Thank you.